Well, first up on the show, anger over the Citizenship Act is pouring out on the streets across India, but it's not just India that is grappling with the political unrest. Other countries have reacted as well. It was even taken up in the ongoing United Nations Global Forum on Refugees in Geneva. And in the latest, and not surprisingly, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan said that the new law will create a refugee crisis in South Asia. He also said that millions of Muslims could flee from India because of the curfew imposed in Kashmir. He said, and I quote, "We are worried there not only could be a refugee crisis in India, but that it could lead to a conflict between two nuclear-armed countries." He also asserted that his country will not be able to accommodate more refugees. He urged the world to understand the growing crisis in India and act upon it immediately.
We in Pakistan are not just worried that there will be a refugee crisis. We are worried that this could lead to a conflict between two nuclear-armed countries. Our country will not be able to accommodate more refugees. So I especially came here, Mr. Secretary General and High Commissioner, I especially came here that this is the time for the world community to take notice. What is happening next door can have consequences, can have an impact on the refugee population of the world, which is unprecedented.
The Pakistani Prime Minister mentioned two nuclear-armed countries, implying India and Pakistan. This is a clear threat to assert that if India provokes Pakistan, Islamabad will not hesitate to use its nuclear weapons. India was quick to react to the Pakistani Prime Minister's comments. The Indian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said that Khan was spreading falsehoods. He said, and I quote, "Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has once again peddled familiar falsehoods at a multilateral platform to advance his narrow political agenda on matters entirely internal to India. It should now be clear to the entire world that this is an established pattern of his habitual and compulsive abuse of global forums." The Indian Ministry of Foreign Affairs also pointed out that the state of minorities in Pakistan and said that over the past 72 years, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan has systematically persecuted all of its minorities, forcing most of them to flee. And well, Siddhant Sibbal is joining us live now for the very latest on how, well, India has reacted to this. And Siddhant, a strong rebuttal there from India to Imran Khan.
Well, of course, when it comes to Pakistan, they have a habit of fishing into troubled waters and milk their way. And that is what the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan did at the Refugee Forum in Geneva. We know his speech and, of course, the Indian rebuttal talking about the falsehood the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has been spreading. But in just about 1.5 hours' time in Geneva, India will be making its national statement at the Refugee Forum. And we do expect a strong reaction when it comes to what the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has said. In fact, a short while ago, India's Interior Ministry, that's the Home Ministry, released a fresh set of FAQs on the Citizenship Amendment Bill, on the refugee status, on the refugees India is hosting, and talked about how India is hosting Sri Lankan refugees, the Tibetan refugees, and approximately 15,000 Afghan refugees, and highlighted how there are processes in which refugees can become the citizens, but talking also about the Citizenship Amendment Bill. But of course, we have seen, as you mentioned, global reactions coming. In fact, the United Nations also reacted, and this is something that India will be trying to clarify at global forums. And today, in fact, the 2+2 meeting will happen. The second 2+2 meeting between the United States and India will happen. And just before that crucial meeting, we saw even the State Department reacting on that. So we do expect when the Indian Foreign Minister and the Defense Minister meet with their respective counterparts, the American counterparts, this issue is expected to come, and India is expected to give clarification about how this is being portrayed as something else. And of course, it's something which, as the Indian government has been saying, will benefit especially the minorities from 3 countries, that is Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh.
Right, Siddhant. And of course, as you were pointing out, that this issue is likely to come up in the 2+2 dialogue tomorrow as well. And of course, global headlines all over the world have not been very, very positive about the CAA. How is India planning to sort of discuss this at multilateral platforms? Is there a sense of what the government is planning to do?
Well, we do expect India to reach out. An outreach mission is expected to happen very, very soon. In fact, the Indian envoys are reaching out to their respective counterparts. In fact, when the bill was introduced in the lower house of the Indian Parliament last week, the Indian diplomats based in Washington reached out to the members of the US Congress, and this is the same thing which is happening in the Indian subcontinent. We have seen, though there has been a fallout when it comes to the passage of the bill between India and Bangladesh ties, but India has been talking privately with the Bangladeshi authorities and the Bangladeshi government that there will be no impact when it comes to this passage of this particular law. This is something that India needed. This is a rationale which will be given by the Indian diplomats, but the development coming in the aftermath of what happened after the removal of the special status for the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, when we saw a lot of negative headlines for New Delhi, and now this is coming. So of course not great press for India when it comes to Western newspapers, but India will and is expected to reach out and tell its own points, what was the rationale and how it will not impact anyone negatively.
All right, Siddhant, thanks very much indeed for joining us with the latest there. So clearly the government there rebutting all those claims from Pakistan, of course, will be taking up the matter at the 2+2 dialogue tomorrow.